We're gonna dive deep into this cake. See, eggs, flour, and sugar are normally what you bake, but pain, suffering, and exploitation are the ingredients in this cake. So while you sing and dance and continue to celebrate, remember the historian told you it's so much more in this cake.
Thank you, brother. Ladies and gentlemen, equality. This is Gentlemen's History Session. This is a historic, important day. We're here on location in the island, Galveston Island. I have a distinguished special guest. Got Brother Sam Collins from the island.
Yes, sir. Born on the island, BOI.
Hey, man. Let the people know why it's a historic day. This is officially June 17th, 2021. So history is being made.
History was made today when the president signed into law Juneteenth as a national holiday. Okay. 156 years almost to the day. Juneteenth is actually Saturday the 19th and today is the 17th. But 156 years ago, our ancestors that were enslaved were finding out that they were going to be free. And now, today, like the 4th of July, Juneteenth is a national holiday and federal employees have tomorrow off because of the events this afternoon.
Now, for our show, we like to go back and then move forward.
All right.
To give a lot of context for why we
how we got here.
How we got here, man. We like to say that history is the path to the future.
Yes, sir.
So it's you have a history of the past, you have a history of the present, and you have a history of the future because it's all related.
Okay.
So we like to look at it as if we're moving forward, but we're moving forward on the shoulders of events that happened in the past.
Absolutely.
So we were just casually talking, just to give some context and work our way up to what we call Juneteenth here in Texas, Galveston to be specific.
Okay.
And I know some of the things when you talk to people about Juneteenth, some of the things you hear people say, oh, we was 2.5 years late, or oh, we were freed, the Emancipation Proclamation freed us, Abraham Lincoln, quote unquote, freed the slaves, and that's what they'll say in a lot of the history books. The Civil War, and then January 1st, 1863 is what people consider freedom or the abolishment of slavery, which is also a misnomer.
That's correct.
Because that was just the Emancipation Proclamation. The 13th Amendment was the abolishment of slavery, which came 1865. So let's go back to the what was going on around that time during that Emancipation Proclamation, and just kind of dispel some of the misnomers of what was going on with the Union and the Confederacy around that time. So when people say, oh, well, we were late because the Emancipation Proclamation was supposedly what freed the quote-unquote slaves.
Well, the Emancipation Proclamation was first signed September 22nd, 1862 by Lincoln. And at that time, the Union had control of Galveston. Many people don't know that the Union had control of the island in the fall of 1862, and it was the Battle of Galveston that returned power to the Confederacy on January 1st, 1863, when the Emancipation Proclamation was supposed to go into effect. So news about the Emancipation Proclamation had been in Texas since September of 1862, and between September of 1862 and December of 1864, it was printed in 125 newspapers, according to one author, Donald J. Norman Cox, DJ Norman Cox. He has a book, Juneteenth 101, and in it he cites every newspaper article that was written related to the Emancipation Proclamation. And people say, well, the enslaved people couldn't read, but they could hear. So they would have been working in the homes of enslavers. They would have been working in the businesses of enslavers and business people. So they would have heard them talking about these newspaper reports about Lincoln, and they were probably hearing comments about Lincoln's not my president. He don't run nothing here. You're gonna be my property forever. That was probably the commentary that was being said.
That was going on around that time. Another thing, in talking about those bordering states.
Absolutely. The enslaved people were not freed in the border states in the Union.
Yeah, no, those states were, it was Missouri, Delaware, Maryland, and Kentucky. And I think later, West Virginia. But those were those bordering states where it was still enslavement was still allowed, but Lincoln
In the Union side, on the
Union side. Yeah, this is the Union side that a lot of people don't know about.
That's
this
right.
is the Union
They think it was
side.
just the South that had slaves,
Yeah.
but the North had slaves, and they were not freed with the Emancipation Proclamation. It only applied to states in rebellion, meaning the Confederate States of America.
And they call them the bordering states because they were on the border of the Confederates that wanted the secession from the United States.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then another thing is that, from what I understand, is that Texas, when we talk about, you know, the message and what was going on during that time after the Emancipation Proclamation, Texas was still practicing slavery, and they were able to do it, and people were coming. It was almost as if to say, hey, if you still want to practice slavery during the
Move
Emancipation,
west. Bring all
go
your
out there to
enslaved people
Texas.
to Texas.
Yeah, go out to Texas.
Well, if we're going to back it up, we need to back it up to when in 1820, when the immigrants moved into Mexico-controlled territory, didn't want to learn the language, didn't want to accept the faith, and wanted to expand slavery. Those immigrants were the Texians. And see, they went to battle with Mexico because they didn't want to accept Mexico's rules in 1820s. Mexico had already outlawed slavery. That's why we get 1836, Texas winning its independence, because they were settlers, immigrants that didn't want to abide by the rules of the country that they were immigrating to. So they fought for independence. And then in 1836, won the independence, and Texas became its own independent nation, delaying freedom 29 years from 1836 to 1865.
So it's not new. This ain't anything new. We
This-
started talking about Juneteenth
This ain't new.
and messages and timetables and 2.5 years, getting a message, supposedly 2.5 years later. This ain't anything new that's been going on here in the United States.
Yeah, so what happened, Texas was an independent nation. It became a state on December 29th, 1845, when it joined the United States, and then it seceded in 1861. But also during that time period, a lot of people know the Underground Railroad that goes to Canada. Well, in Texas, enslaved people ran south because they would have went to Mexico, which had already outlawed slavery, and there's a new book out, South to Freedom. So enslaved people in Texas, if you just look at a map, why would you try to run all the way up to Canada in the cold when all you had to do was make it to Mexico, step across the Rio Grande, and you in freedom?
Yeah. Hey, another thing I wanted to hit on, man, and just talking about that Emancipation Proclamation and Abraham Lincoln and what was going on around that time was two of the acts that I researched. One was the Militia Act of 1862, which allowed for blacks to, because the other thing was blacks fighting on the Union side.
Yes.
We basically fought to free ourselves.
Absolutely.
We fought in that Civil War.
We were not victims, but victors.
Victors.
That Harry Jones says.
Yeah, in that Civil War. So I don't ever try to approach it from us being victims.
Right.
We want to approach it from us being victorious, and us migrating from the South to the Union side.
Yeah.
Now, initially, of course, they didn't even want blacks fighting. They had a Militia Act of, I want to say, 1795, which basically stated that only whites
Could
could
have
fight.
weapons.
Yeah,
Or
can
fight.
have weapons and fight. Then that Militia Act of 1862 came about, and that's when blacks were able to fight in wartime as laborers. And then also, when the unions were making their way down south, a lot of enslaved blacks were kind of fitting, like joining in on the Union side.
Absolutely, because if they figured if the Union won, they would get freedom, and they could help the Union, because not only did they have the physical bodies and strength, but they had intel.
Yeah.
And this is what we need to emphasize, that they knew the land, they knew the rivers to cross, they knew the back way to get around a plantation, they knew how to get to the supplies, they knew where to take out a railroad or bridge. They had intel. So we also need to recognize that because of their intelligence, it helped to win the war, and not just physical labor.
If you're watching this on YouTube, man, hey, y'all, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, This is Gentleman's History Hour.